Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. He is the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. Rob the Hockey Guy on Twitter. Mr. Rob Williams joins us here on Harrison Price. The next time we talk to you, there will have been a game played, a real game played with stakes and points awarded. The home opener, season opener against the Calgary Flames.
We'll do a Standy's update and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Rob, give me your season outlook here. 109 points last year. Where do you think they finished this year, points-wise and division-wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people, I think they're probably the second best team in their division. I think Edmonton probably takes the division, barring a epic collapse like they had at the beginning of last season, like the Oilers did. Without that, they would have won the division last year. So I'm assuming they pick up where they left off. Canucks finish second. I think it's going to be really hard for them to. I mean, it's interesting because I think they come into the season with not as good a lineup as they finished last season in the playoffs. But I think that they enter this season with a better roster than they entered last season. But
do they have the wiggle room to make it better? That's the thing.
But they don't have Thatcher Demko to begin the season. And I think the other thing is that everything went right for them last year. I felt like every bounce, it felt like they got the benefit of, they were good, but they were also lucky. And I think that it's going to be difficult to replicate that this season. I think you also, maybe the Rick Tocchet, bump was more significant last year. So I just sort of on gut feel, I don't really have an analytical reason for you on this one. I think they're going to not be. I don't think they're going to put up quite as many points as they did last season. I think they're still going to be a playoff team. I think they're still going to be definitely in the mix. And I think for them to really, be in the conversation of a Stanley Cup contender, they're going to need a healthy Thatcher Demko. At the top of his game. So, So I'm not predicting doom and gloom, but I also don't think that regular season wise, anyways, that they're going to be able to reach the same heights they did last.
Let me ask you this: have you reached have the Canucks fans reached the point where they are wake me when the playoffs come, or do you think fans?
Oh no!
Or do you think fans want to experience the regular season still?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I don't know. I don't think they're at a point like that yet. I think it's wake me when the regular season begins. Right now, I think the preseason has been. It's funny. I feel like the preseason has been, like the games have been entertaining. Like reason for preseason games, I think they've actually been reasonably entertaining. But the preseason as a whole, I feel like has been boring in the sense that and training camp, because we haven't really, what have we really had to sink our teeth into?
Well, there's no stars around either. Like none of those big names are playing. So.
Exactly, and not that we need to see them shine in the preseason necessarily. It's more like, okay, how does Heinen fit on that first line? Does PD have chemistry with DeBrusk and looks like he's going to play with Sprong? Like, do they have a great chemistry? But like, we haven't really seen everyone together. Even the defense pairs have been jumbled throughout preseason. So like, what do we have to sink our teeth into? I mean, there was Jonathan Lekarmaki. I think that was kind of fun, but I don't think many people actually expected him to make this roster coming out of camp. So it wasn't like he was, okay, I don't know that there was a realistic excitement with Lekarmaki other than, okay, it's a nice little step forward for getting ready for the AHL. So yeah, I think this preseason has been a little dull in terms of storylines, in terms of things that we can really get excited about.
Well, the coaches have chosen preservation over chemistry testing. Do you think that was a worthwhile? Do you think that'll prove to be a worthwhile endeavor for them, and reducing their reps, but you don't get the chemistry test?
So I bit my tongue more this preseason because last year, remember how awful they started, and remember what the focus on the start of the season, like they needed to come into camp ready to go, and they had not a very good preseason. They seem to be testing out things. The Cole McWard farce with Quinn Hughes. Like, I never thought that was going to happen. I didn't understand why they were wasting time with Hughes's partner. I did not think that was a very good way to enter a season at all. And of course, they came out of the gates just absolutely firing on all cylinders. They had an amazing start to the season. So I feel like I'm reserving judgment now because, like, hey, it worked last year somehow. But yeah, like, to me, it's counterintuitive. To me, like, why start the season and be having all these the veterans and young guys kind of sprinkled within the lineup? Like, to me, start the guys that you think are gonna start the season, like, because clearly they now have their lines pretty well set for the first time in advance of the final preseason game. I would anticipate that first regular season game is going to match that as well. To me, the coaching staff pretty well had in their minds what the lineup was going to look like for the most part. Why not just start day one of training camp with your first line, your second line together? Maybe there's a little bit of movement after that, but, like, what are we doing with, Hughes getting all these different partners, unless you actually want to test it in games and see if you're going to move off of Hughes or Hronek. I don't understand why you.
If you're going to play two
I
games,
agree with
play
you
them with
on-
those guys. Yeah.
I agree with you on Hughes and Hronek. With the forward combinations, I think a lot is in flux. So I've got more time for experimentation with the forward lines. And speaking of, you were amongst many who noted Tocchet's comments about Sprong and the opportunity that he looks like he's going to get there beside Pettersson and DeBrusk.
Yeah, I feel like Sprong is the real wild card of this season, right? Like, you can tell just, I mean, there's obviously the knock on him is the defensive side of the game. When you hear Tocchet speak about Sprong, like, that's quite evident that he's still a little on the fence, I think, on Sprong, in terms of, just the way he talks about how they're going to work with him and help him get better and all those kinds of things. So I think Sprong, he's not a player that I've paid a ton of attention to over the last bunch of years, but you see the stat line, it looks nice. He's been one of the most impressive Canucks, I think, in preseason. You look at him, okay, he can skate, he can dangle, he's got a great shot. Like, he oozes top six talent. Now, can he be the fit with Pettersson and DeBrusk on that second line and play well enough defensively that the coaching staff feels comfortable throwing over the boards? If he can do that, suddenly, that line with Pettersson looks very, very intriguing. And I think that's something that, it could easily go the other way, right? Like, it kind of feels like an Andrei Kuzmenko light here, where, you've got this guy that can obviously produce offense, but if the coaching staff can't trust him, it's not going to work.
Do you feel like this team is
Well, I was just going to say, where does that leave Hoglander? And answer me the poll. Where does he spend the majority of time this season? Top six, bottom six, or on another team, Rob?
I'm not ready. I do think that, it's not outlandish to say that he could be trade bait, in the future. I think he probably fits in. I think ideally he fits in on your third line, right? Like, I think if Hoglander's on your third line, providing energy, providing some offense, that's probably an ideal spot for him. I don't think he can't play on a second line, and I think you can definitely shuffle things up. And so I think he'll play top 6 minutes for sure. But I think ideally he fits in on your third line. And again, that goes into Sprong, right? Like, if Sprong is a solidified fit in your top six, then I think that bumps Hoglander down to the third line. And I think that's a good thing for the Canucks. Like having Hoglander on your third line, it means that you've got, kind of echoing what the coaching staff said in the last couple of days, but that means they have depth, right?
What's your bet on how this team starts this season? Because not everybody's taking the same approach as the Canucks in the preseason, and that might affect how they ultimately start. They've got injuries to deal with as well. they've got, was it 9 games in the month of October? What is a good start, and can they accomplish that given where they're at right now?
I think they can have a good start. They've got Calgary in their first game, so that's a should be an easier game right out of the gate. But then you always worry about, I had this worry. Like I said, I had this worry last year, starting the preseason like this, and going through preseason, where you everyone's sort of taking it easy. It does worry me that you enter the season maybe not terribly firing
Intense?
on all cylinders,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, they had such a wonderful year last year. You wonder, is the hunger, is the focus, is the desire just a little bit less than last season, right? Are players in the back of their minds thinking ahead to the playoffs rather than doing everything they can just to get there? Even the media pressure, right? Like the media pressure last year, it was like, this whole pressure with pressure. A lot of that was, the intense scrutiny on the team last year. Like that first month felt like each game probably felt like a little bit like a mini playoff game, because there was so much importance put on the start. So do they let their foot off the gas pedal this season? I think that's a challenge for Tocchet and the coaching staff to ensure that they keep that focus, keep that hunger.
And it's a good shout because, prior to Tocchet getting here and, basically tell them you haven't done shit. That was one of the things that we had all heard about these Canucks. Like they'd win a few games and walk around town like they were cock of the walk, like, oh yeah, we're great. No, you haven't done nothing yet. You haven't achieved anything yet. That's why Patrick Allvin messaged as he messaged at the end of season press conference, that it was forward looking and aspirational, and we're not going to celebrate a second round playoff exit, even if it did come in 7 games with a third string goalie against Connor McDavid and the Oilers. So yeah, we'll see. It's a fantastic point, Rob, about will the Tocchet message, will the Tocchet way be as effective this year now that they've had
it was playoffs or bust,
a little bit of success, right?
Yeah.
Like last year, he was an easy guide to follow because the previous year was a catastrophe, and because I think a lot of them knew it was playoffs or bust, and some of them were playing for contracts and all of that. This year, it's a little different chemistry there. Lastly, Rob, so preseason being what it is, and in a Canadian market, you can find people to go to preseason games. Tickets got really hot last year, and they got really hot like by the end of October. Like they came out of the gates blazing, and the market was so ready for that because we hadn't had a lot of success here. You're working on a story about tickets for the opener on Wednesday against Calgary.
Yeah, more research is required on this one, but we did look at. I looked at ticket pricing when it came out to the general public, and I, searched under the home opener. It was like you couldn't get in for under $200. Like, and these are for like seats way at the back. If you look on Ticketmaster now, it's like there's tickets available for like $130. Quite a bit less. And these are not the resale. Like in a lot of games, the resale price is actually the cheapest price to get in, because season ticket members and pack holders get a cheaper price on their pack. They get a cheaper per game price on their packs. So they're actually able to undercut the general admission price.
Plus, they might just want to get something.
General public price. Yeah,
they just want to liquidate it for something as well, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they can make a season ticket member can make a profit off their ticket and still undercut whatever is available on Ticketmaster. In a couple senses. One is that their price is significantly cheaper than the general public price. And then the other aspect is the cheapest section in the building is not always available. Like the first, you always see this when the team is bad, you'll always see the first sections that fill up are the cheapest section and the best section. So center ice, club seats, lower bowl, that sort of thing. That fills more than the end zone of the lower bowl. And also the cheapest ticket will fill up more than other spots that are a little
Just
bit
to
more
get in.
expensive in
Yeah.
the lower bowl. Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You've got money and you want the best ticket. That goes quick, and just get in the building. Like there's not really a bad seat in Rogers Arena. That goes quick. So if you've got the cheapest seat in the building, you can really undercut it because that seat's not available often to the general public.
Well, one thing that was terrific last year is the spirit, the energy, the crackle, the excitement was back at Rogers Arena. I mean, it had felt like a library in previous seasons. It had felt like duty for season ticket holders to turn up to these games. So let's hope that continues, because that was terrific for the market, for the community. And of course, we will be relying on you for everything Rogers Arena related this year, Rob. You do such a great job on that. Thank you for this. And until next Thursday, my friend.
Thanks, guys.